Hey y'all, I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, creepy, and strange.
And I drink.
So what are we drinking tonight, Mitchell?
Our beer tonight is Sour Pash Passion Fruit Sour Ale. Brewed and canned at Avondale Brewing Company in Birmingham, Alabama. 4.2% alcohol by volume. According to the Untapped app, the beer social media app, because there's nothing on the cans and nothing on Avondale's website for this beer, period. It's like it doesn't exist.
That's not true. I found it on their Facebook and on their Instagram, but it's not under any of their official stuff. It's
right. Yeah.
I think it's like a summer seasonal, and they just don't have a write-up for it.
Okay. Well, there you go. So there is no can or online section. There is nothing about this beer. So we're just going to move into the personal review section. I find it to be a wonderful sour with just a hint of bitter at the beginning, so it's nice and smooth. I like it a lot. It's got a real crisp finish. The passion fruit flavor really comes through, which is refreshing because anytime that you get like a fruit flavored sour, it's usually just sour and there's not really any fruit in it. This one is a different story. I like it a lot. Go find it if you can.
And honestly, I didn't, but maybe it's because I don't know what a passion fruit actually tastes like.
Right.
But I just got mostly sour on it with a tropical fruity kind of after, but not. Once again, I just am probably a hick that doesn't know what a passion fruit actually tastes like, so maybe I'm super wrong, but I got mostly sour off of it.
You said that, and I did not. Let's remember that moving forward here. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I like it a lot.
It's a great summer beer.
It is. It's very, very, very good. Our shot in the dark for the night, we had it on just a few weeks ago. Trademark Bourbon Whiskey, aged and bottled by Black Patch Distilling Company in Madison, Alabama. 45% alcohol by volume. And like I said, just a few weeks ago, refer to episode number 58, which was Come Check Out My Orb, for the full review. It got an 8.5 out of 10. It's a good whiskey, but it's pretty harsh, especially taking shots of it. But, it's good, and I'm looking forward to trying it again in shot form.
I'm not a super harsh whiskey person, though. I prefer it better in a cocktail because a shot of that stuff will burn the nose hairs out of your nostrils.
Well, it's coming, so
oh, bless my heart.
Get excited for it. Well, that's it for the alcohols, Leah. I do want to say something real quick before we get into anything else.
Alrighty.
We have brand new microphones.
We sure do. Isn't
that I'm excited about. Yeah, I hope that it sounds good. We'll see. I'll see when I go to edit this afterwards how it sounds. But in my ear bones, it sounds really crisp right now.
I like your ear crispies.
Yeah, my ear crispies. Oh, God.
What is your problem? Fuck.
Oh, fuck.
Gross.
Ugh, gross. But yeah, we got new microphones thanks to all the patrons on Patreon.
It's so much appreciated, y'all. It's so nice to be able to actually purchase equipment that isn't borrowed or bullshit. So
yeah, we've been using instrument microphones for quite a while, but they were better than the ones that we originally started out with anyway.
We had a lot of borrowed gear from my dad and Mitch's dad initially because they both are into music stuff. But now we have purchased our own mixer board, our own headphones, our own microphones. Everything is good to go for us to actually have our own shit, and it's nice, and we so much appreciate it. Patreon members, y'all are awesome. And we just released another Patreon episode a couple days ago. So that one was about spontaneous human combustion. So if you want to hear me ramble on about one of my weird obsession topics, you're more than welcome to join us over there at the Possum Passel. And if you pledge $10 or more, you get to pick a topic for me to ramble on.
Yes,
and
you do.
Those have been really interesting. I've learned a lot of weird shit just doing the last two of those that we did. So I'm super pumped about Patreon. Thank you guys so much.
And if you like the episode titles that we come up with for these episodes, just wait till you see those Patreon titles.
Because we don't have to bother with what Apple Music thinks.
I'll spoil this one for you. It's called Mitch Bacon Candle. That was the human combustion one.
Gross.
And there's a reason.
There is.
It's really gross, but that's okay. We'll worry about that another time. Right now, Leah, what are we going to do?
We're going to be talking about our funny place name for the evening, and we're going to go to the great state of Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're talking about Mowata.
Mowata as in more water, right?
Yes. More. Ow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I accidentally pull a cord on you?
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm moving around a little bit, trying to fix some shit over here.
You should stop shifting, sir.
I'm sorry.
But we're talking about Mowata, Louisiana, and you're absolutely correct. It is short for more water.
All right.
So this particular settlement started out as just an area where trains. So back in the day, trains were steam powered. So you would shovel in coal, put water in the boiler, and the steam would operate this engine that pulled the trains forward. Well, the thing is, you have to stop for more water because water's really heavy, and like you can only store so much in your tanks and still make it an efficient thing. So you've got to stop every so often to fill your boiler tanks up, right? And so this particular area was first settled as a stop to add water to boilers for steam trains. So it was really common when they stopped in this place for the train folk to jump off, yell more water, and they'd fill up your water tanks and leave. And
they would say, I would love some more water, please.
More water, please. No, they'd just scream out off on the platform, more water.
Okay.
So it just became known as more water, and then that obviously got shortened because Southerners can't pronounce all of the letters in a word. What do you think we are, like Yankees? Please.
Yeah.
So we made it into Mowata.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fun. I enjoy that there's a town named Mowata. How's it spelled? Is it Mowatta?
Nope, Mowata, Mowata.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was spelling it like I text. I type gonna a lot and wanna.
I do too.
Yeah, so obviously Southerners
gonna,
taking out letters
coulda,
and spaces.
Shoulda, it's awful.
Yeah, well. All right, so what do we have next, Leah?
All right, well, we are going to talk about our first story, and our first story.
Nice.
Y'all, it's been a week, and I have been fighting the stutter. Okay, so we are talking about the reincarnation of J.E. Johnston.
Okay.
And this is a story that I first saw on Unsolved Mysteries as a little kid. And because it mentions Alabama in the story, I perk up and I'm like, oh, we live here, Mom. Because I watched with my mom. She probably shouldn't have been letting me watch it, but she wanted to watch it, and I thought it was cool.
But it was such a good show, though.
Yeah, it was great. So we watched that together when I was a little kid. But so this is the story of the reincarnation of J.E. Johnston. So we're starting out in California. Don't be concerned. We're going to migrate to Alabama real fast, and we're going to stick there, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I'll take your word for it.
So we're talking about this guy named Bruce Kelly, and he was born on January the 19th of 1952. He grew up and lived in and around Glendora, California. He was a salesman. He was a single dad of a daughter, and he was just like a normal dude, just hanging out, bebopping around life, having a great time, except he had an overwhelming, intense, irrational fear of bodies of water.
Okay.
It could be anything from like just a swimming pool to the ocean. He had like, and it wasn't just like I'm scared, I don't swim kind of thing. It was an intense, avoidant phobia of water.
Like the Truman Show. Like, did you ever see the Truman Show?
Yeah.
Well, Jim Carrey's character has that Truman has. Anyway, a whole thing happens, and he won't ever go near water.
And that keeps him off of the
bridge to leave, quote unquote.
But it basically was causing real harm in his life. It was difficult for him to, live in California near the ocean and be a regular, normal, functioning human being. So he was like, okay, this is not cool. I really need to see a doctor about it. So he did.
Okay.
He saw several doctors to help with his phobia, and none of the cognitive behavioral therapies worked. None of the medication, nothing helped this phobia, and he was fucking fed up. He was like, dude, we've got to do something. This isn't healthy.
He longed to be a
normal human being. Yeah.
Well, no, I was gonna say a synchronized swimmer.
I don't think that was his aim, but maybe. I'm not gonna say no. So he got so fed up and was like, look, we've got to do something. So he would try just about anything. So he ends up at a hypnotist. And this hypnotist's name is Dr. Rick Brown. And he was using a controversial technique called past life regression, which sounds super woo to me.
Yeah. Super woo.
You know, like woo.
No. Woo. You can't just say it and go, you know.
Woo is more like very magical thinking, real, instead of trying to use scientific things. Woo is like, you know...
I don't. That's why I'm asking.
I'm trying to describe it and you're being a dickwad. I like when people get super into crystal healing instead of like going and getting like a shot. You know what I mean? Like
praying in a way.
I mean, yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, it is a magical thinking kind of thing. And I mean, everybody's got levels of something that they believe that are a little woo, but you know, that's just a general skeptical term that people use.
Is zero woo on the schedule? On the spectrum?
I'm sure zero woo is a thing, but I don't know who that would be.
That would be me. I don't believe in magic. I'm zero woo.
I don't think you're zero woo, though. You think you're zero woo?
I am.
But you got some woo in you.
I'm a little stitious about things.
But you're not superstitious?
Right. I love that joke. I've always loved that since I was a kid.
Anyway, and also I'm not knocking anybody that likes crystals because I think rocks are cool.
They're pretty, but they're not
super
magic.
Pretty. I don't personally believe in crystal healing, but if you do, rock on. Yeah. Just make sure you get immunized and then get your rocks. But whatever.
Get them off too.
Ew.
Am I right? Get them rocks off.
Are you
I
trying to make
shouldn't have
everything
whispered
weird?
that into the new Chris microphone because it picked it up perfectly.
It made you sound super creepy, man. Anyway, let's go back to this. He was a past life regression hypnotherapist, this Dr. Rick Brown. And so he's going to help Bruce regress into his past life, heal whatever crazy trauma that happened to have happened to him. That was a weird sentence, but
just say it and then go, and move on.
And so he was going to help mend any kind of thing that the trauma from the past life that's causing this water phobia. So during the session, Bruce had incredibly vivid visions of him being a submariner. He
like the Submariner?
Not like the superhero, the Submariner.
Like Marvel's Aquaman?
No, like being in a submarine, like a seaman that is in a submarine.
He's a seaman.
He is a seaman. And he, sorry, it's not funny. He
amongst
drowned.
Seamen. Oh, shit. Sorry.
So he saw vivid visions of himself drowning in a submarine. He claimed that his name was actually James Edward Johnston, and that he was a submariner with the American Navy during World War II. And he said that he was stationed aboard the USS Shark during, World War II, and that his submarine had sunk off the coast of Borneo near an island called Celebes. And those islands aren't called that anymore. It's all of the Indonesian, Micronesian area. A lot of that has changed recently, but at the time, there was an island called Celebes, and that's where it went down. And he claimed that he was also trapped in his area of the submarine with a man named Walter Pilgrim. And he said that they both died at 11:34 p.m. on February the 11th of 1942. So this is a lot of information, and you do need to remember that all of this happened in the 80s, so there's no internet that you could just pop up and Google shit, because I did. I popped up this and I Googled it, and I wanted to make sure that this was at least mildly credible before I read the story. And you can find the ship log for the USS Shark. You will find that guy's name on it and the Walter Pilgrim's guy on it.
Creepy.
Yeah, you can find pictures of these people. Like it is a legitimate, like, at least that part of the story is true. Whether this guy is like reincarnated, I'll leave up to you, but the detail that he's providing in the 80s is shocking and correct for the most part.
And Al Gore had not emerged from the wilderness and granted us the internet yet.
He hadn't blessed us with the interwebs yet.
he hadn't risen from the primordial sludge and brought with him knowledge of our future selves.
Indeed. Anyway, so Bruce basically was a little freaked out at this point because, I mean, who wouldn't be? Like, you are having these weird visions, and he felt that they were so real and so just incredibly vivid that he needed to go research this shit because he was confused, he was concerned, he wanted to make sure that this wasn't real. But it turns out he went to the library, he ordered in some books, he went to the library, and he did end up finding the register for the USS Shark, and it turns out that that particular submarine was the very first submarine lost in battle in World War II. It did go down on February the 11th of 1942. On the ship's register, there was a seaman named James Edward Johnston.
Seaman.
Yes, and there was also another seaman named Walter Pilgrim on board.
Two seamen.
And so they, had a bunch of sessions over about the next 6 months, and Bruce continued to have these visions, and it wasn't just of the death in the water. It was also of his childhood in rural Alabama.
Oh my goodness.
Which, who wants to remember that, right?
Fucking snakes and mosquitoes everywhere.
So true. But while under hypnosis, Bruce claimed that he saw Johnson's mother dying at their home.
Oh, God.
He claimed that he knew that he had a young cousin named Elizabeth. He was about 12 years old at the time. His younger cousin Elizabeth was with him while his mother was dying in the home, and he remembers that particular event really vividly. But shot in the dark.
Oh shit! Hold on. Here we go. Got it. I hope that was loud enough. It didn't seem like it was.
Bruce also had memories of Johnston enjoying bread in a very specific way. What was it?
I'm so worried about this.
It's not that weird.
He shoves it in his butt.
Gross. No, A, he only eats the crust. B, he eats the heel ends of the bread. Or C, he scrunches the bread up into a ball.
Okay. All right. Let's examine this real quick.
All right.
Number one, A, I've never heard of anyone just eating crust. I've heard of people obviously taking crust off and not eating it, period. But I've never heard of anyone being like, I don't want the middle part where all the actual taste is.
When I'm eating a piece of toast, I'm super weird. Especially Texas toast from Zaxby's specifically. Yeah. I like to take the crust off, and I like to eat the crust first. And I'm weird. I dip it in ketchup,
too,
y'all. I
dip it in the Zax sauce.
Okay, that's good too.
Yeah.
But I like to eat the crust first, and then I eat the buttery middle.
No, I do that. I eat the crust first, and then save the extra garlicky butter part. Yeah. Yes, I do that.
But not just the crust. I'm not going to just eat the crust.
Right. I'm eliminating A for that very reason. Okay. No one has ever done that in the history of humankind.
Someone has done that. There are a lot of weird fuckers out there.
No, it's
not. Hey, y'all,
it's not
if you're a weird fucker and you only eat the crust, email us.
Please add me. But I'm completely eliminating that one. Now, B... Y'all, this may be the longest shot in the dark we've ever had because I'm about to tell a fucking story. As you know, Leah, I actually really enjoy the end pieces of loaves of bread.
You do, which is really fucking weird.
So, when I was in high school, a friend of mine and we got really stoned, and we came up with a business idea. And it is a great idea that admittedly will not make money, but it's a great idea.
Then it's not a feasible
just hold
business
on. Okay,
model.
Listen to it and we'll discuss. The company is called Bread Enders. And what we do is we focus on selling the end pieces of loaves of bread. Now, admittedly, that leaves a shitload of bread with no end pieces out. But we have an idea for that. I'll get there. We sell them separately. We have top enders and we have bottom enders. So we have the top piece that's a little more curved and the flat bottom piece in their own loaves. Just full loaves of top pieces and bottom pieces. Top enders, bottom enders. We also have a gigantic amount of non-enders that we sell with its loaves of bread with no end pieces because it's all the ones where the end pieces came from. You get it. Now, admittedly, We do not make a lot of money doing that. But I love end pieces of bread. And I am going to say that he loved the heel pieces. B.
What kind of stoned ass
Leah,
idiot?
It was high school. And it was a fantastic idea. We were just talking about our shared love for end pieces of bread.
Well, couldn't you have just baked smaller loaves of bread so you could not have as much internal bread?
Listen to me. Don't apply reason to this. All right? You're not the target demographic for bread enders.
I don't think there is a target demographic for bread enders because nobody likes the heel piece of bread except you and this J.E. Johnston
So
asshole.
I got it right?
Yes.
Yeah. I've also never heard of anyone balling up their bread, but
there was a
in
kid.
pieces.
There was a kid in my elementary school that 100% would ball up a sandwich. Like it could be peanut butter and jelly, and they'd ball it up like that. And
I actually
got
have
all
seen
squishy,
that. You're right.
And they just sort of ate a bite of it like an apple.
You're right. I've seen
Super creepy.
that. I've seen that.
Whatever.
And then
that kid dropped out, by the way.
well, Leah, you have a shot to take. And while you do it, I'll tell another story about that has to do with end pieces of something where as I've said before on this podcast, I have a... Are you okay?
No.
It's a rough whiskey. 45% will fuck you up. But I have a friend, as I've said before.
It won't get off my tongue.
Gross. That's what she said. But growing up, his family owned a couple of Chick-fil-A restaurants, and now he's an owner-operator of one himself. But he would not eat the Chick-fil-A waffle fries that didn't have holes in them. You know, the bread enders of the potato world.
What kind of monster are you?
That's what
the
I'm
best
saying.
Part.
I love those. I love the end pieces of the potato as well.
Potato enders I could get behind.
We could do potato enders, and we'd have a lot less non-enders in the potato world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he wouldn't do that, and I don't get it. I don't see how you can own a Chick-fil-A restaurant and say, this was his excuse. It was too much potato.
That's the whole point.
He needs more air in his potato, I believe.
I mean, I love waffle fries, don't get me wrong, but like I was always super excited to get that big chunk of potato that was all
The problem is that it takes up most of the room in your fry container box, so you don't get a lot more fries when you get those end pieces.
But I like the end pieces, though.
I do, too. I love the fucking
I'm a potato ender. I could definitely be in for potato
they're potato skins. They're basically potato skins without cheese and bacon.
But good.
I love them.
Okay, that was a weird
Anyway,
tangent.
nobody fucking steal my bread enders idea.
No one's going to, Mitchell. You're fine.
Admittedly, it would be a lot less money.
So he claimed that that Johnson man always liked to eat the end pieces of the loaf bread first, and that was his favorite thing.
I'm with you, man.
They would the family would save the loaf end breads for him because he was the one that liked them.
Yeah, I love them.
Weirdo.
I'd eat a bread ender sandwich with that guy.
So strange. Anyway, so in another session, he said that he remembered that his birthday was February of 1921. He remembered that during the Great Depression, he was working in a government work program called the CCC. And for those of you who weren't paying attention in junior high
I don't
history,
know what that
is. It's the Civilian Conservation Corps. So it's one of those things kind of like the WPA was around here where they're works projects. So they put people to work that didn't have jobs. And they paved roads, they built bridges, they constructed dams, etc. Like the university that I went to, all of the roads there are paved in really pretty herringbone brick patterns. And that was like a WPA project where they put people to work bricking the roads, you know.
Yeah. You've told me about that because it was in the amphitheater.
Yeah, the amphitheater was a WPA. And it was recently re-uncovered, and I think they were restoring it. But
okay.
Yeah, so it's like just a work thing.
The University of Montevallo, for everyone who doesn't know, in Montevallo, Alabama.
Yeah, that's where I went to school.
Since we haven't said it in about 2 weeks.
Jesus, I need to shut up about that. I'm sorry.
You love your university.
I do. I had a great time. Anyway, so in 1938 in California, he also claimed that he met a lady named Molly Lassiter, and that she was Johnston's very first girlfriend, that he loved her very much, and he asked her to run away with him, like they were gonna go get married. And he just had this vision of the two of them on a bridge, and Johnston was asking her to like hang out for the rest of their lives together. And she was like, ooh, I like you, but I'm afraid my dad might murder your face.
Why?
And I don't know.
Just because?
Just because. And so, according to Bruce, she broke it off and they never saw each other again.
Okay. Well, that's weird.
So Bruce and Dr. Brown researched the fuck out of Johnston's life as 80s. And at that point, they could really confirm most of the military stuff that he was talking about, but the whole like familial little anecdotal things about him.
Yeah, you can't confirm
You
that.
can't confirm that from a distance. So the doctor was like, okay, we've got to fucking go to Alabama, right?
He didn't have 9,000 photos on his Facebook.
Yeah,
with
there
the
were, I
family.
mean, it was, you know, a different time.
Again,
so
Al Gore had not risen.
they confirmed through all of that in California through records, they confirmed that he was in fact in the CCC from 1938 to 1939 in California. They verified that in 1940 he was enlisted in the Navy, stationed aboard the USS Shark, and his Navy records listed his birthplace as Jacksonville, Alabama, and his birth month and year as February of 1921.
Okay.
So they completely confirmed all of that stuff. So Dr. Brown at this point was like, look, we got to go to Jacksonville, Alabama. We got to find his family and see if this is true. Because obviously Dr. Brown is like, I got a live one. I got one that knows like this is
I'm going to write a book and make so much money.
Yeah, I mean, probably. And so he was really interested in trying to confirm the small things that you wouldn't know, you know, wouldn't be able to find out and research ahead of time.
Right.
So he goes to Jacksonville, and then eventually he brings Bruce to Jacksonville as well. And so on April the 17th of 1993, Dr. Brown and Bruce arrive in Jacksonville, Alabama, and they visit the home that Johnston grew up in.
Oh, this is fucking creepy.
Yep. And
I don't like this
while they
shit
were
at
there,
all.
Bruce described different parts of the house the way they were in the 20s and 30s when Johnston had been living there, because it had been remodeled after that. And he remembered that Johnston would always go into the house through the back street and through the back door. He would never enter through the front.
Yeah, he would.
Gross.
Johnston always coming in the back door.
Stop. But he ended up being able to meet with several of Johnston's living friends and relatives. One of the relatives that he met with was the cousin that he remembered, Elizabeth Betty Watson. And he was absolutely certain that she
The
was
younger one.
Yeah, the young cousin that he saw while he was under hypnosis.
Right.
And one thing that she asked him specifically about to try to verify for herself if this guy was for real or not, she's like, what about bread? Like, he had a thing with bread. What was it? And he was accurately like, yeah, like the ends of breads. And she's like, oh my God, you're Johnston.
Yeah.
I don't know if she-
That's all I needed.
Bread, yes.
Remember when we had that idea for bread enders back in the 40s?
Anyway.
We got real stoned in the 40s.
Yeah, and she said that he was also accurate about Johnston being the one that uses the back door to enter the house and going through that back alley and that
She was
stuff.
adamant about it, huh?
Yeah.
Gross.
So based on the information that the family, or that he received from the family, the doctor and Bruce were pretty certain that he's reincarnated Johnston, or somehow he got that guy's memories or something
Through magic.
something weird. It was a
He
little
stole
weird.
his memories.
I mean, maybe, but yeah. So that was one of my favorite episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. I hate to be that person, but I fucking loved Unsolved Mysteries.
I did too, but my favorite was Rescue 911.
Oh, I do love that
loved
show.
that show.
But that particular case was from the September 22nd of 1993 episode, and they still say it's unsolved because reincarnation is a little hard to prove.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun first story.
It really was.
I enjoyed that a lot.
I'm glad.
Good. Well, in between stories here, we are going to bring you something that we've brought you before. We just enjoy this product and we like talking about them. We're going to run our ad again for Chill Bombs.
Chill Bomb.
The CBD infused bath bombs, because we enjoy them. We've gotten positive feedback from a couple of y'all.
Yeah, we've had people that emailed us, different people, that I don't know personally, that said that they bought Chill Bombs and have absolutely loved them, that they just can't say enough nice things about how comfortable and wonderful they are to like bathe in. And
Gross.
one of my friends, Amanda, I've talked about her before. She has a webcomic series. Go to amandapandacomics.com.
Free ad.
She's fucking amazing. But she
really
bought a bunch of them, and she just said she freaking loves them. Because she's really busy. She's got a young daughter. She's got like law school and a full-time job. Like, it's insane. And, just that taking a nice chill bomb for yourself is very comforting. And the CBD oil really helps you relax and just calm yourself the fuck down.
They're wonderful products. Awesome. They really are. And we recommend them 100%. We've gotten positive feedback. And according to Chill Bombs, they've gotten some feedback that they heard about them through us, and they're excited, so they want to keep promoting themselves through us, and we'll take it anytime, because we will 100% represent you, because we love the product
100%. And if you want to get 10% off of your purchase of Chill Bombs, use our code SPIRITS, SPIRITS.
That's correct.
10% off your order. Go get you some. There's some new scents for summer that look absolutely amazing, so go get you some with our code.
Yeah, I recommend it myself. Here's the ad for them right now.
Hey y'all, we want to introduce our listeners to an amazing Southern-made product that we know you will all adore. Chill Bombs.
Chill Bombs are a line of all-natural, responsibly sourced CBD-infused bath bombs. The bath bombs are each handmade and individually infused with CBD for accurate dosage.
Chill Bombs come in a range of fragrances from lemon pound cake to Japanese green tea, and you can select your CBD dosage of 25, 50, or 100 milligrams.
Chill Bombs are allergen-free, vegan, and THC-free, so you can get your chill on with no worries.
So go to chillbombs.com and pick yourself up an amazing CBD-infused bath bomb and tell them Southern Spirit sent ya.
Bye, y'all. And again, don't forget that promo code SPIRITS for 10% off. Get y'all some Chill Bombs. We like them. We think you will too. We know from a few of you that you already do. So, Leah, what are we going to do now?
All right. Well, we're going to do our second story, obviously.
Excellent.
But we're doing a story that I had no idea about. I was looking up information for another story that happened in Huntsville, and I was researching, trying to get a little bit more clarification, because I've always heard this one story. Anyway, I was ending up looking in some archives from like the Huntsville Historical Society, and I ran across this story as an article from like the 80s, and I'm just sitting here going, excuse me, what? So this is the story of Constantine B. Sanders. He was the sleeping preacher of North Alabama.
The Sleacher? He's a Sleacher?
I hate that. Thanks.
No, you don't. You love it.
Or was it thanks I hate it? Because that's how I feel.
I love it. He's the Sleacher.
Ugh, a Sleacher sounds like a weird creature from the Black Lagoon kind of thing. I hate it.
Yeah.
Buh.
It's also known as Al Gore.
He rose from the primordial soup and gave us the internet.
The internet Sleacher.
I don't like it. Stop touching my leg.
Sorry. I'm making Leah uncomfortable while I talk to her about the Sleacher.
He's like putting his toe on my calf, just sort of stroking it while he's talking about Sleachers. I can't.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, let's get into this because you're being creepy. Yeah, I've seen people like write in reviews like like marriage goals, couple goals, and I'm just sitting here going, no, you don't understand.
Y'all have no idea how bad we smell on a day-to-day basis.
We don't smell bad. We just fart in each other's presences on occasion.
Leah, you're
and
disgusting.
It's gross.
You should be more of a lady.
I should be more of a lady. My grandmother would be very disappointed in me, but it's fine. We're cool.
I want to tell that story. Hold on.
Shit.
At Mother's Day, a couple weeks ago, we're sitting in Leah's grandparents' dining room. She's at the head of the table, and I'm at the other end, at the other head of the table.
My grandmother's at the head of the table.
Right. And Leah's sitting next to me. And Leah's grandmother's in the middle of telling a story. She does that a lot. She tells long stories.
Very long stories that like bleed into other long stories. And you just sort of sit there and eat.
Nobody's around me except for Leah sitting right next to me. Well, I had a fart slip out. And I'm sorry. And Leah looked at me and started laughing. No one else in the room fucking heard it. And I looked at Leah and I like grinned and I shook my head. I went, stop. And Leah's grandmother stopped talking, looked at Leah and said, "What are you laughing about?" And I said, "Nothing." And Leah goes, "Mitch shot a rabbit." And I said, "No, I fucking did not."
Yes, you did.
And Leah's grandmother said, "It's all right. It happens to me all the time." I was like, all right, we got to stop. We got to move on, because apparently shot a rabbit is a euphemism for tooting in Leah's family.
It is. My grandmother, ever since I was a little kid, she has lots of weird phrases for lots of weird stuff, but we wouldn't say fart. Fart wasn't a nice word.
Right.
You could say toot if you wanted to, but if it was really polite, it's just, I shot a rabbit.
When I was young, we called it a frog.
Like a gun? I don't know.
My mom would say a frog.
Yeah, my grandmother said you shot a rabbit, but most of the time, the amount of ass ripping that Mitch does is not.
Oh God, I shot a bear. Would a bear make a louder noise?
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, you could take down an elephant sometimes.
Leah,
but
that's
anyway.
enough. We did this in the Patreon episode. Let's not do it again.
I'm sorry. Okay. We're going to be talking about Constantine B. Sanders, the sleeping preacher of North Alabama. He was not a sleecher. Anyway. So, Reverend C.B. Sanders was born on July the 2nd of 1831.
The Slevrand. He's a Slevrand instead of a Sleacher.
He's not a Sleacher or a Slevrand.
He's the Slevrand.
I don't like it.
I like it.
Anyway, the Slevrand was born on July the 2nd of 1831. He was the youngest son in a family of 10. But there were only 2 boys and 8 girls. He was the second to last.
So that's so many children.
Yeah, there was a younger sister under him, but he was one of the babies, and he was the youngest son. And he, grew up in a household with that many people.
And mostly
he was
women.
Mostly women. He was the son of Constantine Blackman Sanders. Oh, no, that was his name. Sorry. He was the son of James and Rebecca Sanders, and they lived about 16 miles north of Huntsville.
Okay.
And so, like I said, it was just a close-knit farming kind of family. But when Constantine Blackman Sanders, the Slevrand, when the Slevrand turned 6 years old, his father died. And so that was kind of a shock.
That's
and
sad.
That left his mom on her own to, maintain the farm and raise 10 children, which sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And so he became very close to his mother, and he stayed with his mom on that family farm until he was a young adult. And he obviously was brought up by this mother, and she was very religious, and so he became very religious because you kind of mirror what your parents do as a kid.
Yeah.
So
I didn't. But
they regularly attended community meetings, camp meetings, revivals, church every time the door was open. So he grew up in a very religious household.
No, thank you.
And on September the 5th of 1851, he was converted to Christianity, which, he got saved in a revival right north of Huntsville, and he joined the Cumberland Presbyterian Church the next day.
How fun.
And by 1854, he was like, look, Jesus has called me to be a preacher, but I ain't got no education. So I should probably go to school so I could become a preacher. And that's what he did. So he enrolled in school in Elkton, Tennessee, and Giles County. And that's
How fun.
Yeah, it's about 25 miles northwest of Huntsville. It's very close. Like, we could get there very easily.
Yeah.
Like, just, it's right
Never
there.
even heard of it.
Yeah, it's right across the state line. Yeah, it's just right there. But anyway, so while he was away at school that summer, though, he got pretty sick and ended up with the typhoid fever, which is a problem. And while he had typhoid, he was experiencing these periods of seizures and convulsions that sort of just left his entire body, like... convulsed, I guess. Like it was almost like
typhoid was a huge problem back in the day.
But his was a little bit weird because, like I said, his entire body cramped up and it made his arms and his chest and his throat and his tongue and his face just like look all contorted, and it would like stay that way, and it was painful, very, very painful. And it was also kind of weird because so his landlady was taking care of him. Her name was Mrs. A.M. Harlow, and while he was in one of these convulsions with his fever and all of that stuff, he was like, hey, you've got to feel something. It's just like, okay. So
if any strange man comes up and tells you, hey, you got to feel something.
No.
Don't
like,
do
this
it.
is his landlady, and he's a young
I understand,
man. She's taking care
but
of
if
him.
I'm a landlord and a tenant comes up and says, hey, look, you got to feel something.
Anyway, he takes her hand and he puts it on his forehead, and she describes, there's a book that I'll be telling you about later that you could actually get a copy of if you're interested.
I'm not. But you may be.
It's free. It's on archive.com. But anyway, it's a collection of all of these stories. But she writes how he took her hand and put it on the top of his head, and while he had these convulsions, a weird separation in the skull seemed to happen. So it was like there was like a divot in his head where she said she could put her entire little finger, like the tip of her little finger down into it.
Don't do that.
And she said this depression extended from the center of his forehead to the top of the crown of his head, and then it extended down towards each ear. So almost like his skull was opening up when all of these constrictions happened.
You need to see a doctor, man.
Yeah, for real, man. That sounds like a terrible thing. But anyway, so she said that when he was having these seizures, it happened, but once it subsided, he would just get better, I guess. Like the depression sort of closed up. He didn't have that indentation on his skull anymore.
Maybe the separation was what was causing the seizure.
Possibly.
Like it would separate and he would convulse and stuff.
And she said, though...
I mean, I'm no doctor. I'm an amateur gynecologist.
Mitchell.
But...
that's never funny.
It's always funny to me.
Every woman has heard that joke, and it's never funny.
I know. I'm the worst.
You are. But so... basically, she said that after that first incident of her feeling that separation in his skull bone, that as soon as the seizure was over, he sort of glazed over, had like a weird catatonic sort of looking thing on his face, and he told her that there was going to be a burial at her home the next day.
Fucking creepy, man.
And she said that...
don't go home.
He said, don't worry about it. It's no one from your personal family, but someone's going to be buried in your family
I'm going to come by with a
tomorrow.
body. I'm coming by. Don't worry about it. You don't know him. Sounds like a fucking serial killer.
Maybe. But she writes in this book that after about an hour after he said that was going to happen, a distant relative, a man, arrived at her house and asked permission to bury body in the family cemetery. One of their distant relatives had died and wanted to be buried.
Okay, so it was someone in the family, just not someone she was...
Yeah, not close to. It was an older lady, and she...
I was going to say, who just has like a graveyard
a
sitting
lot
around,
of people,
and they're
especially back then.
Hey, you can just come dump your bodies here.
You don't dump a body there, but
I know. You bury it.
You bury it.
You dump it in the ground.
Indeed.
Ugh.
And so that was his very first experience with the entity that would take over pretty much the rest of his life.
Okay.
Because he would have these psychic space out weirdnesses for the rest of his life. And he believed that when he was having these psychic experiences, that he was possessed by a weird spiritual entity, shot in the dark.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Got it quick that time. Oh.
This entity went by a rather odd name.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Was it A squared plus B squared equals C squared?
Like it.
B, L times W times H equals V?
Hate it.
Or C, X plus Y equals Z?
All right. I mean, you know that I'm a geometry fan.
Yes, I
As
know.
we've discussed with my hypotenuse joke
Which
recently.
was terrible
that last
and
week
incorrect.
when we talked about it?
I think it was a week before, but I might be wrong.
Incorrect.
Yeah, because you're the hypotenuse, but you would be the square of the hypotenuse.
Yeah. The hypotenuse squared is what it technically would be. Beside the point, Leah, don't examine the joke. It's a really, really well-crafted, funny joke.
Not. It's not.
Oh, God. It was great. So I am going to go with that one. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
You are incorrect, sir.
Oh, son of a bitch.
This entity... Are you going to buzz yourself?
I got to scroll up to it. Hold on. Okay. Got it.
All right. So this entity was named X plus Y equals Z.
That's not even a fucking formula.
No, but that was the entity's name was X plus Y equals Z.
I'm so pissed off. But like, there's no... Matt, those are just points on a 3D plane. I'm so pissed off.
It was still his name. Its name, the entity's name. But anyway.
Well, that's so... I got to take this shot. Go ahead.
You going to enjoy it?
Just continue, please.
I want to see your shot face. Anyway.
Oh, God, that is so strong.
You okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's good whiskey, but like...
It's too strong to be shooting anyway.
Don't shoot it. It's 45%. Fucking A.
That needs like a nice fancy ice cube in it to sit around for a second.
It does.
But anyway, during the next 22 years of his life, he experienced these weird psychic phenomenon, pretty ongoing, and the attacks would take place just about all the time. Like, it didn't matter if there were people in the room, if there were no people in the room, if it was people he knew, people he didn't know, if he
could control it, it would be kind of questionable.
Well, yeah, if he could control it, it would be like profitable probably, but he couldn't. It was not something that he ever wanted, and he actually really loathed it very seriously to begin with. He was embarrassed by it because he was a preacher. He had a church.
Sleacher.
He was a Sleacher. And he was basically worried that people would think that he was either being possessed by some kind of satanic force, or that he was associating himself with spiritualism, which was not Christian.
Can't have that.
And he was just really embarrassed by it, and he was afraid that this made him a hypocrite of some sort, but he literally couldn't control it. And he was so insecure about this condition that he kind of hermited himself. He was he was very personal, and unless you were really good friends with him, he didn't open up very well.
He kept it to himself.
Yeah, very much so. He was a very private person and didn't want anybody knowing about all this weird shit that happened initially. So he was also really worried about it because he didn't ever have any control over what X plus Y equals Z was saying or anything like that. But it turns out that eventually he was fine with it because X plus Y equals Z seemed to be kind of a theologist and someone that was also very Christian. So it was fun.
Well, then we can welcome him into our home.
Yeah, X plus Y equals Z. I don't know. X plus Y equals Z preached a lot. While he was in these trances, they would say that he would go off onto these sermons that were just absolutely eloquent and beautifully written and just like amazing kind of sermons that would make people cry and just like, they said that he sang hymns in the sound of, it sounded like angel tears when he sang hymns while he was this X plus Y equals Z character. Like,
what do those sound like?
Weird. I have no idea. And I don't think I want to know because it sounds awful.
Yeah,
but,
for real.
Like it was, he could accept it a little bit more because it seemed to be theologically sound. So it was okay. It was just the psychic things that kind of freaked him out a little bit.
Right. Freaks me out too.
So he ended up marrying a lady named Miss Duanna White on October the 29th of 1856. And
That's fun.
She was also from Madison County. And it was great for him because she was a really nice, sweet lady that completely understood that, like, he just had these weird psychic attacks sometimes. So, she would take care of him and it was fine. And she wasn't freaked out by it at all. So, like, they had a good life. They had like 4 kids. They hung out. Anyway, he became a pastor in Meridianville for a while.
I'm glad they hung out.
Moved to Maysville for a while. Like, he was just preaching around, having a family, doing some stuff.
You're always just spot on with the details.
Well, I mean,
I love it.
Do you want to know how much his personal estate was worth?
No,
because it was $450. They had censuses taken. This is very detailed information that I pulled, but no one gives a rat's butt.
I don't care. Y'all can read it in that free book that Leo was talking about.
You can actually, and I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, so this whole X plus Y equals Z thing basically made him just super weird.
Well, yeah, a little bit.
They kept saying that these attacks that he would go under, he had really violent headaches, really bad chest pains, really, like, he would convulse and stuff like that. His breathing would be reduced. His eyes became so bloodshot that, like, little trickles of blood mixed with tears would sort of roll down his cheeks. Like, it was... Yeah.
That's fucking weird. Like, I know that when your eyes go bloodshot, it's actually like capillaries bursting.
In your eyes,
whatever, in your eyes. But I didn't think that was actual, like, here comes some blood type bloodshot. Like,
well,
I thought
think
it was.
Generally, it's not, but it sounds like the blood pressure in his eyes was like fucking insane.
I guess what I'm saying is I didn't actually consider that it was for real
blood,
tangible blood.
Yeah, it is.
That was in the eyeballs, But
anyway,
God, that's fucking gross.
So he had like sort of blood tears occasionally, which is cool. But they always describe these periods of like psychic attack as sleep. That's and then they go every time in this book they're like, yeah, he was asleep, but I mean it wasn't like really sleep, but it was kind of sleep, and like it was just a really difficult condition for them to describe other than just sleep is what people called it. And he had even seen doctors about this condition, and one of the doctors attempted to describe what the condition was, and this is what it says. The doctor described it as cerebral disturbance, a super excitation of the sensorium that pushes his mind or soul free and untrammeled into space, and thus, uninfluenced by surrounding objects, it sees clearly all things happening around.
What?
Basically, he like disembodies his soul and can like see shit going on at the same time. Yeah.
Okay.
So
well, thanks, Doc.
Sorry.
Not you. The one that was, you're right.
But like it's fucking weird, some of the stuff that he could do. So he at one point, when some of this stuff first started happening, was that he went into one of these sleep trances and he did automatic writing while he was in these state. His eyes would be closed. He would just whatever, but he could write it. They said that his handwriting was absolutely gorgeous and perfect, and he would take a piece of paper, not even looking at it, have perfect lines, just writing this stuff out. And he completely transcribed a sermon that this other preacher had been giving like 30 miles away on that same night.
Have we talked about this before? Wasn't there an instance of someone doing that somewhere else, like reciting a thing going on like 12 miles away or something?
Yeah, there's been several different things. Edgar Casey is one of the ones that comes to mind for me because he has very similar. He was a guy from Alabama who, while he was sleeping, was psychic. So yeah, like it was a very
psychic.
very similar. Which was what like drew me to this story because like he was Edgar Casey before Edgar Casey was Edgar Casey because this guy came way before. But anyway,
whatever that means,
other people will get it. You might not because you don't pay attention to what I say, but
I do at the time, but I forget it immediately.
Anyway, so like I said, he has these remote viewing things, and one of these incidences was like, okay, so someone had donated a bunch of money to the Presbyterian Church that was, local to them to buy new books and materials for Sunday school or whatever.
Okay.
And so this person had given the guy in charge a handful of coins, some silver coins, but then also a gold coin that was worth quite a bit. It was like a foreign coin of some sort, just, but it was gold. So obviously you could just cash it in because it was gold value.
Right.
So they had given this dude this gold and was like, okay, you go do that. And so he gets home and realizes that the gold is not in his pocket. And he's like, well, shit. I don't have the $3 to pay for this shit. That's very expensive, by the way.
What, $3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, in like 1850 something.
I'm poor. I get it.
So he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh no. What's going on? And so they basically asked this Sanders guy, hey, man, we've lost a lot of money. We don't know what's going on. And in a trance, Sanders was like, okay, look, here's where it is. You dropped it because you had taken out your pocket knife and you took your pocket knife out to do something at this particular intersection of the road. You're going to find that coin buried in the dirt about this much under the dirt. So about 1/4 of an inch under the dirt in this one specific location. They said, you'll see the edge of the coin. It'll be shiny. You'll find it right there. And the guy was like, okay. And so they went out there and sure the fuck enough, he found his gold coin and they got to buy the material for church.
That's kind of how we found my wedding ring. For any listeners of Midweek Minis,
I went into a trance and I told Mitchell, go out into the yard and fucking dig for it.
Not that, but like I squished my finger and flung my hand and lost my wedding ring in our backyard about a week ago. And about 2 days later, I went out at nighttime with a flashlight right where I thought it was. And immediately when I walked out there, I saw it glisten off that flashlight. And I was like, oh, that was fucking easy. Yeah. I just couldn't see it during the day at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leah was in a trance.
And I was like, dude,
it's
go get your
right
ring,
where you were
bitch.
looking. Just go find it. What I think happened was Leah took it and hid it from me and then put it back out there before I went out with the flashlight. All of that in a trance.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened.
Yep.
Anyway.
But I have my wedding ring, so there's that.
So there's another instance in that book where there was a family, what was their name? Oh, Blakes. They were the Blakes. And so Mr. Blake was telling this Sanders guy that his wife had lost a ring that had belonged to their daughter, and the daughter was really upset about it. I don't think it was a wedding ring.
In their
it was just
backyard.
A ring. It was in the house.
No.
And they were like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Anyway, Sanders was like, okay, I can find this thing. It's fine. He went into a trance and he located the ring. The lady left the ring on a windowsill in a room that they didn't use very often. He described the ring entirely, even told them what the inscription on the inside of the ring was, what they were doing when they lost it. Like, it was fucking weird. They found the ring. It was, I don't know, all of this stuff is just fucking strange.
Yeah.
And so he's really good at finding lost objects.
When asked.
Yes, when asked, finding things from a distance. There's tons of these stories in that book about different stuff that he did. And also X plus Y equals Z also...
Still not a formula.
No, because it's the name of that guy, the entity,
right,
or whatever. he was also known to write letters as X plus Y equals Z. So, like, he would, like I said, automatic writing was a thing. He would write out some of those sermons sometimes. And sometimes he would make philosophical, like, arguments and stuff like that, and just talk about different stuff that there's no way the Sanders guy would actually know about, because it was just more education than he had.
Right.
And then it would start writing in Latin a lot.
And no one fucking knows Latin.
Well, I mean,
No
a lot
one.
of people know Latin, but not this guy. And it was a very specific kind of Latin that was not like...
Did Latin have dialects?
Well, there's different periods of Latin. So there's church Latin, there's classical Latin, there's
Like there's Old English.
Yeah, exactly. There's
American
different
English.
versions of Latin and how languages change. Any language is going to change over the years, and this is a particular kind of Latin that is not well studied that this thing was writing in.
Okay.
And his friends that were like doctors and stuff in theology that did speak Latin had translated it, and they were saying how it's from these different ancient texts. That anyway, it was something that this country bumpkin kid should not have been able to do, and it was really kind of freaky.
I'm freaked out.
Yeah, it was
Mostly
uncomfortable.
just because of the Latin thing. Nobody knows Latin.
Some people know Latin, Mitchell. I
No.
took it in high school. It was fun. I recommend it. We had a toga party every
Why
year.
would you recommend Latin? Don't ruin these people's lives.
I enjoyed myself. I was a member of the Junior Classical League. I can still sing the theme song. Seeking the best, the highest our goal.
No, we're good.
No.
We're good.
Searching for greatness
Oh,
through
God.
glories of old.
Oh, God, she's not going to stop.
Searching the realms
No.
of the golden past.
Do
We
it in
follow
Latin.
the classics, truths that last.
Do it in Latin.
In knowledge, truth, and fellowship, we're growing
got to stop
every
this.
day. Every day.
We have
the friendly
subscribers are
hand of
dropping off like
JCL.
flies.
Aids in every way.
AIDS.
Yeah, in Rome's
Oh,
proud
no.
steps, we're
No, Leah, for real, you got to
marching on
fucking stop.
with every true colleague, and forever we'll hold to the purple and gold of the Junior Classical League.
All right, if anyone's still listening, I want to apologize on behalf of my wife.
Sorry. It's
because
one of
she
those
won't.
songs that once I get started, you just got to go for it.
God. All right. I mean,
So you've got that earworm now.
no, I
You're
don't.
welcome.
No, that is not sticking around in my head. It's gone already.
You want me to sing
Jesus.
it again?
No, I want you to finish the story now. I have had enough. I'm through with this shit.
Oh,
All right, what's next, my love?
I'm sorry. There was another thing that happened that I thought was really strange. I've lost myself in my notes, so I'm just going to tell you the story because
Okay.
I'm
That's fine
sure
with
you
me.
don't care about very specific things.
Of course I do.
But there was another thing that happened was that there was this like military officer guy that was really popular in the area at the time. He lived in Tennessee, and this Sanders guy went into a weird trance one day, and he had friends around him hanging out, doing parlor stuff, whatever, just chilling. And he goes into this trance, and he's like, "Oh my God, he's gone! He's gone! Oh Lordy, he's gone!" Like.
Where'd he go?
And people around him are like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?" They didn't say fuck because no one said fuck back then. But they were like, "What are you talking about? Who's gone?" And he was like, "This officer guy. He's gone. He died." And everybody was like, "What are you talking about? He's like 30 years old. What's going on?" Anyway, it was confirmed the next day. Someone came back into town with the news of this from Tennessee, and they were like, "Yeah, he died. He had the first stages of consumption and no one really knew about it. And he died of like hemorrhaging."
TB, right?
Yeah, TB.
Okay. That's what I thought consumption was.
Yeah. So that was weird. Like I said, he's really strange about just, predicting things, finding things, weird automatic writing. He just, this entity possessed him and he was creepy. I don't know. So... excuse me. He, like I said before, was really trying to keep to himself. He didn't want anybody to fucking know what was going on with him. Like, it was bad. But there was a newspaper called the Nashville Daily American, and in September of 1875, they wrote a really long article about him, and they only referred to him as the sleeping preacher, the Sleacher.
The Sleacher, right.
The Sleverand is more appropriate, but the Sleacher. And they said that he was a humble minister of the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and he produced a number of sensational spiritualist things. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
That's very informative.
They had that, and I mean, like, it made a little bit of news and people started visiting, but it really took off when several other papers started basically copying that article. Like, they would run it in their own papers, and eventually a big paper out of Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Tribune, basically wrote this big article about him as well, on November the 26th of that same year. And so his secret was out. Everybody knew about X plus Y equals Z.
Oh,
and
no.
he was like, oh shit. He
was famous. He was famous now, wasn't he?
I mean, yeah, regionally famous.
Oh, no.
And curiosity seekers and looky-loos started coming around, tapping on his windows, being like, are you the Sleacher?
I heard you was a Sleacher.
Oh, you slavering, what you doing? But anyway, so eventually Sanders was like, look, we've got to tell my side of this. I don't want people thinking that I'm some spiritualist medium. I'm not. This is something, like, we've got to set this straight, right?
Okay.
So he asked his friend Reverend George Washington Mitchell, who was the pastor of the Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Athens, Alabama, to collect and document his story and to write this book about it. So Reverend Mitchell was a really well-known, respected preacher in his day, and he compiled all of this information. He got all of these witnesses to sign papers stating that this was the truth. They got over 69 different people to basically tell their stories of what happened. It's people everywhere from Athens, Hazel Green, Decatur, all the way to Montgomery and Virginia and Tennessee, and just from all over the place. There were 10 preachers, 6 doctors, and another member of the Alabama legislature.
Oh, God, of course.
Because they're real trustworthy.
Jesus.
But so they got all of these well-known, well-respected people to write their stories about this guy and their experiences with the entity X plus Y equals Z. So they wrote a book and they published it in 1876, and it is called X plus Y equals Z, or The Sleeping Preacher of North Alabama.
The Sleacher.
And you can find that on archive.com. It's like 200 and something pages. I read like 50 pages of it or so. It's pretty interesting. And like I said, it's for free on archive.com if you give a fuck. You probably don't, but it's available if you do.
I don't personally, but
it's a little hard to follow because it's like these little personal things, and the guy writing it goes, oh, and this guy verifies that on this date, and it's a little scattered, but the stories are pretty interesting if you can get through some of the editorial weirdness. But yeah, so they published that, and it was just sort of, this is the testimony of all of these people verifying that he's not a spiritualist, he's not possessed by the devil. This is just sort of a thing that happens, and this is what happens. So that was basically it. But then X plus Y equals Z ended up leaving him eventually.
Oh, no.
And he was happy about it.
Oh, never mind. He liked it. Okay.
He was super thrilled that it did not. Yeah. Because, people, it had gotten so far in popularity as in 19 something. Anyway.
In the 1900s.
No. I'm tired and I'm confused. Right. I'm a little drunk. I don't...
You got it.
Hard to follow my notes. I apologize. But anyway, so X plus Y equals Z would write letters to Sanders himself occasionally, and he always called him my casket, which makes me very uncomfortable.
Oh, my sweet little casket.
Oh.
Sit here and accept my bounty.
But anyway, on February the 2nd of 1876, X plus Y equals Z wrote this Sanders guy a letter that was addressed to him. And he basically consented to leave for just an indefinite time period. So this is the letter that X plus Y equals Z wrote to Sanders. It says, my casket.
Oh.
I know. Sorry. My casket. I now come to address you personally before I depart. You have been to me greatly a submissive servant in suffering, in contempt, in wonder, in reproach, by night and by day. From year to year past, you could never fully see all you have passed in this life until you see the life to come. I have given you many valuable lessons and prevented you from many difficulties and sorrows. With heaven's benediction, I will now bid you adieu. And X plus Y kept his word from May the 5th until he died.
Jesus.
He didn't have any other problems with X plus Y equals Z. He just his whole personality changed. Basically, he wasn't depressed anymore. He didn't suffer from headaches. He didn't have any of that chest breathing problems or pains. Right. He didn't have any more seizures. He was just better. And one day he was I woke up and I realized that I dreamed for the first time since in 22 years since this entity started bothering me.
That's sweet.
He had his very first dreams and it was just weird. And so he after that just went on to live life as just a country preacher. Didn't have any more problems with it. He was recorded several times in the records of the Presbyterian Church, and but nothing else of consequence ever really happened after all of that left. He just lived the rest of his life out as just a chill, cool preacher dude with his family, and he never had any more problems with his seizures or anything else like that because X plus Y equals Z fucked off.
Well, that's good.
I know, right?
I mean, if he didn't want him around, it's good that he fucked right off.
Yeah, and you can visit his grave still. It's in a little country cemetery there in Stevenson, Alabama. You can actually just Google his name and you can go on Find a Grave and it's on there.
I didn't know that was a thing.
You've never been on Find a Grave?
No, Leah. That's fucking creepy.
I mean, it's very helpful if you're looking for a grave.
If you're a fucking creep ass and you're looking for a grave.
Well, I mean, a lot of people want to visit places where people were buried, famous people or whatever. And it's got photos of the gravestone. He's buried next to his wife. But anyway, so that was the Sleacher of North Alabama. Oh, man. The Sleverand, if you will.
That was quite a ride right there.
Yeah. So that happens in Alabama. You're welcome.
That's fun. Yeah. Well, we've been going for a while, so let's just get a toast here.
All right. Toasty
I don't really
y'all.
have anything else to add to the Sleacher.
Well, this is a terrible toast, so...
Oh, those are my favorite. Those are my favorite.
Hoist your goblets high into the sky. Maybe make it water, because I've had too much whiskey. We're going to toast. All right. Past life regression is really quite hypnotic. If the details aren't right, you just sound psychotic. X plus Y will always equal Z. This preacher had to sleep to see. Drink.
That wasn't bad.
It wasn't good either.
Don't give yourself a hard time. I mean, the first stanza was better. The first stanza was kind of lacking to me.
It's hard to rhyme Z with anything.
Yeah. Well, you did good.
Thanks.
You did well. I'm sorry. You did very well, I think.
Well, that's all I had, y'all.
Well, I enjoyed it, and I hope that y'all enjoyed these stories this week. I had fun.
I had fun, too.
And when you hear this, we will be on our anniversary trip in Chattanooga.
Chattanooga, y'all.
We are going to be enjoying ourselves until Tuesday of next week.
It's going to be wonderful.
And it's going to be so wonderful. We're going to go drink a lot and have a good time.
And we're going to see otters, and I can't fucking wait.
Oh, you love a good otter, don't you?
I do love a good otter.
Well, y'all, we want to thank you for listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast. Follow us on all of your social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Send us any questions for midweek minis or any personal stories. We're running low on those, too. And we need them to try, or else we're just going to start farting around on midweek minis. And then what happens?
And we all know about Mitchell's fart capacity.
Leah, God damn it.
He gonna shoot a rabbit.
Not cool. cool.
I'm sorry.
Join the Possum Passel. Go to patreon.com/Southern Spirits Podcast. Help us buy better microphones than the ones we just bought. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with these so far.
I'm really pumped with this. I think we should buy more promotional material or something.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
New stickers or postcards or something to give everybody. It'd be fun.
But y'all join the Possum Passel and join the conversation on the Facebook community chat. We post a lot of stuff on there. Add us on Twitter or Instagram. Send us a message, whatever you feel like. Send us any fun stuff like postcards to our P.O. Box, which is P.O. Box 1743, Hartselle, Alabama. That's HARTSELLE 35640. And Leah, am I missing anything on the outro here?
Nope.
I don't think so. Well, that's it, y'all. We will see you next week.
Bye, y'all.